Everybody, it's the Monday After Show. I'm Mr. Moohead. I'm so happy we have a guest. Most people despise me and will not come on the program. This is Philip. Philip is from South Carolina, but he's a Bears fan. And we wanted to bring a different perspective into this show after the Browns annihilated the Bears, which was unfortunate the way that it happened for an Ohio State alumnus. I mean, I don't think people in Ohio wanted to see that happen to Justin Fields.
That was a travesty. That was a hate crime.
It was like a drive-by, but not on wheels. Before we get into the talk of football, I'm always complaining about how people are so unforgiving in the world, and that we live in a heartless, thoughtless kind of world. And today's heartwarming story is a story of forgiving. And I know that you don't usually get this on this channel, but sometimes things touch my heart in such a way. And I wanted to share this with everybody because, and I'm in the process of doing that now. This is a story that, an artist who wanted to be able to express themselves through music, and the only way that they were allowed is if they changed their name. Okay? They sued for the right to use their own name to be able to perform their own written compositions on YouTube. So I want to share this with everybody. This is John Hinckley. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Not that John Hinckley. Yes, this is the John Hinckley who shot Ronald Reagan, former president of the United States, and blew James Brady's brains out. Okay? And now he has his own YouTube channel, and let's listen.
Hey everybody, hope you're doing great. This is my latest original song. It's a long way to where I'm going, but I'm on my way.
Electric chair.
There's so many things that I've been knowing to get me through my day. Even if you're sad and blue, may your dreams come true.
Oh man, if my dreams came true.
Tender words to you, may your dreams come true. There are times when you don't know the answer, it is still alright.
Well, I'd like to tell you that there is some real reason for all of this, but there really is never any reason for this. I want to remove this. It's really making me ill.
Make it stop, for fuck's sake. Damn. God.
Well, but there is, what's funny about it? The thing that's so funny about this is the song itself, of course, is ridiculous, juvenile, infantile, and sung by somebody who tried to shoot the president of the United States. He didn't try, he succeeded, he just didn't kill him. Which proves that Hinckley doesn't do anything particularly well. But it's the comments on the song that absolutely left me breathless with laughter. Some people who don't even know who he is, okay, which is great because it's a whole new generation of people who have no concept of history. And then...
Yeah, but that happened 40 years ago.
Isn't that amazing?
Think about how many people under the age of 40 that you know or have dealt with on a daily basis.
And
they don't know anything about that.
No, but I'm giving them a lesson. Now, look at some of these great comments. Hey, wake up! It's the new John Hinckley song.
See, here you go. He says, I literally thought that was Hammer Time.
Yeah. The assassination attempt was a ploy to advertise your music. Clever. He's no Dylan, but he's definitely a better songwriter than Charles Manson.
40 years in the making. Well, he also hasn't done as much LSD as Charles Manson either.
I'm so happy to hear the news, John. Can't wait to buy the album. You're a pretty cool guy, Mr. Hinckley.
Oh, Jesus.
Not really, not bad, really. So all this time you could have written songs to impress Jodie Foster instead. Pretty impressive. That's the guy who did a 22 trick shot on the president, and then it turns out he's also a capable musician. I mean, I'm sitting here dying,
Almost literally.
Oh my God. Big fan of all your work. May you always shoot for greatness. I know. Oh my God. It's just, we are such a, I guess maybe we shouldn't be so forgiving. Okay. Maybe I'm just wrong about that. All right. Enough of that. Let's talk football, shall we? And the game yesterday was not what anyone would have expected. And Philip, you're going to take center stage. Today, your coach, Mike Nagy, came out and said that the starting position was up for grabs for all three guys. Let's juggle. Yeah. First of all, who would you start? And what in the hell's the matter with Matt Nagy?
Okay. It seems like it wouldn't be a complicated issue, but for some reason it is. I'm not starting Nick Foles. I would blow my brains out. I watched too many of that tragedy last year. But honestly, if you looked back at the Bengals game, Andy Dalton played pretty well against the Bengals. He wasn't throwing downfield with impunity, but he played pretty well in that game before he got hurt. And I don't think Fields has necessarily – I don't know what Fields can do because every time he snaps the ball, he has less than a second to throw it. And so I'm not going to sit here and say Fields played like good because he didn't. We lost the game. But I can't sit there and be like, oh, he's a bust. He's terrible because he threw 20 passes and 15 of them were – or not 15 or 13 of them were five-man defense.
That's exactly right.
Against the blitz. How is he supposed to do it? Andy Dalton wouldn't have done anything in that situation. I don't think it's very fair. So, but one final thing. Mitch Trubisky, bless his soul, who had as much yards of offense as our offense did last week, always destroyed the Lions. His 5 of his best 7 career games are against the Lions. So if there's a game to get Justin Fields' morale back up, I think it would be the Lions. So if I was Matt Nagy and Fields is able to play because Nagy claims Fields hurt his hand, I would say Fields plays.
I was, reading the same thing that you read. I mean, that there were 13, 5 men protecting, leaving him totally unprotected rather than leaving people in to actually chip block. There were 3 chip blocks in the whole damn game for Justin Fields. And the amazing thing, there were only 2 called designed quarterback runs. And it took him until the middle of the second quarter to even get him out of the pocket.
Exactly. I wish I could tell. Everyone was screaming for it since the Bengals game last week. They're like, hey, you have a quarterback who can run like sub 4.4 speed. Like, why aren't you doing something with him in that regard? And Matt Nagy's like, no, we're going to drop him back and shotgun, and everyone's going to run a curl route, and we'll see where it goes. And it's my responsibility as the coach to make sure this game plan goes well. And it's just...
As a Cleveland fan, we were wondering what it would take to actually make our defense look good. And by golly, we found it. The thing is, and if you ask the people...
we just need to make Matt Nagy the substitute coach for every fucking opponent from here on out.
Please hire him away from us, please.
Philip, if you only knew the years of agony in Cleveland with the Browns, and, how many times I went on the air and said, we look like a JUCO team, man. We just didn't look like we belonged in the league, that we would have these performances that were so inept. And it's like, there isn't a way in God's creation that the people who were on that offensive line, if they allowed the Browns to do that to them, and I'm not whipping on the Browns, but the first couple of games of the season, the Browns defense was allowing pitch and catch and playing soft zone. All of a sudden, we moved everybody up, and it was panic time for Justin Fields because he got no protection. I wanted to ask you about one thing. You watch the Bears every week.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't.
Sadly.
All right, but Jason Peters.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, has he looked that bad in the first 2 games?
Not at all. It's actually very strange how badly he played in this game. He had like a 93 PFF grade against the Bengals. He had like 2 pancakes, and then against Aaron Donald the week before, he only played the first half before he hurt his quad. But Dalton did not get sacked when Peters was in at tackle in that Rams game. So it was very, like, I expected, if you went and saw the my predictions from the day before, I said I expect Myles Garrett to wreak havoc because it's Myles Garrett. That comment's funny. But I expected them to like be good, but I didn't expect them to make Myles Garrett look like Derek Thomas. You know, like I didn't. It was rough.
You're going to get great comments from the viewers here because to put this in a mathematical context, yeah, 1 kick exceeded the entire offense. I mean, I was flabbergasted. I mean, Jason Peters really looked like he was glued to the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, if he'd have just put a body on him, I mean, do you realize that Myles Garrett ran across the field and sacked Justin Fields? I mean,
right. I can't even. I don't know how to describe how angry some of it made me feel watching it live, and especially for like everyone in the press conference leading up to the game was, we're gonna fight for Justin. We're gonna make sure Justin has as easy of a start as possible, and then it's that embarrassing, lifeless of a performance by nearly everybody on the offense. I mean, I can't even think of, I guess, Allen Robinson for flopping on the John Johnson interception that was called DPI. Good job. I mean,
yeah, I mean, that a horrible call, and
I didn't.
Well, the back judge was looking right at that, and as soon as he put his hands up, he was already reaching for his back pocket. So
yeah,
but again, you look at that as a little microcosm of the whole issue with the Bears is that they were handed a gift on a golden platter and the ball set up at like the 12-yard line and they have a 4th and 2 and idiot kicks the field goal. I mean, a first down there and a touchdown brings it to 13-10.
This is the same coach who down 6 against the Rams went for it on 4th and 19 and ran a play action out route. It was 4th and 19 against the Rams. Didn't even throw a route that was ahead of the 19 yards. We were only down 6. If he had kicked that field goal, it was a 3-point game.
4th and 19.
Well, if you want to hear something even crazier, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who we'll get to in just a moment, who are the reviled team if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, and we're reveling today because there's not enough bad things that could happen to Ben Roethlisberger. I want to tie him down and make him listen to John Hinckley's whole album. That's what I would like to do.
Well, maybe if his genitals turned black and fell off, that would be...
Yeah, I mean, Ben Roethlisberger...
That would be up there.
They were losing 24-10 and had the ball 4th and 10 in the red zone. And Roethlisberger takes the Mike Tomlin, you got to get rid of the ball quick credo, and throws a ball out on the flat to his running back who gets tackled by 5 guys. I mean, I'm just going, what in the world? But I mean, you have a chance to cut that to 13-10. And any mistake the Browns would make at that point, the whole momentum of the game could have changed on a basis of a 48-yard penalty and then your ability to cash in. But instead, I mean, there was never a point in this game where I believed that Justin Fields was integrated into the offense, that anything that was on the play sheet reflected that he was going to play the quarterback position. Nothing that would have made his job easier. It almost looked to me as if they intentionally made his job more difficult.
A lot of people, especially Bears fans who were clamoring for Fields since week 1, said that they purposely made him look bad so that he would have a reason to go back to Dalton. I don't believe that. I just believe Matt Nagy is so incompetent that he does not understand. He could never figure out how to get Trubisky moving. Trubisky's not a good quarterback. He's not like a top 10 quarterback. He's barely like a Ryan Tannehill in Miami. But when Bill Lazor took over his play calling and he started implementing a lot of what Kevin Stefanski does, where it's the single back, get the offensive line moving, get bootleg, get the quarterback in motion. When that started going, Trubisky turned into one of the most efficient passers in the league. Nagy has no idea what the strengths of the team are at a position-by-position basis. He has Jimmy Graham on a $10 million contract to catch balls in the end zone, and he has not lined up in the end zone once. It's incompetence.
Well,
to me, he's basically Coach Klein from The Waterboy. And speaking of The Waterboy, have the Honey Bears turned into the cheerleaders from The Waterboy? Just drunken, just a drunken hot mess on the sideline.
I didn't know. I wasn't looking at the women, Brian, during the game. Actually, I was. I was looking at the offensive line. The Honey Bears are only at Soldier Field, so it would have been the last home game. You know what
they were probably fine during the last home game.
You know what I would say, Philip? Every group, like the pass rushers from days gone by, the fearsome foursome or the steel curtain, or whatever the nickname, they should come up with a nickname for the Bears offensive line. They really should. And I'm going to see if I can come up with one.
The mummies. Or the zombies.
The crypt keepers.
Should call them the Clay Army.
Yeah, this was the whole thing was astonishing to me, and the thing is that we've seen it so many times in Cleveland, and the whole issue in my mind is that they asked Matt Nagy who the quarterback would be, and he goes, if Andy Dalton could play, it's going to be Andy Dalton, because he either didn't want Justin Fields or he just didn't think he was ready. But there's a clear disconnect between the head coach and the front office in this organization. There's no question about that.
Nothing ruins a rookie quarterback more than putting him in a game, starting him, and then removing him.
Exactly. That's when we drafted Justin Fields, one of my takes was, this isn't Tua and Ryan Fitzpatrick. This isn't, you're not doing as well as we think you're doing. Come out of the game. This is, as soon as you put Justin Fields in and you claim he's the starter over Dalton, there's no going back. There's no taking him out, because all that's going to do is make people angry at you for, what the Dolphins did to their offensive coordinator last year? After that year, they ditched him because they wanted someone who was going to stick to what Tua was good at. Bless his soul. But you can't just, especially this team, especially it looks like the offense just doesn't want to be out there. I don't think they would want to be out there if they don't know who's going to be throwing them the ball.
Yeah. Hey, Crazy Dog, how you doing? It's been a while since we've seen you around these parts. Good to see you. To me, looking at it, it's like, because I've seen a disconnect between Brown's coaching staff and front office for a long time. And, it's like the shiny new toy, and, a child wants to play with the shiny new toy, but doesn't read the instruction manual and proceeds to break the toy. Right. Watching Justin Fields at his post-game press conference was painful. Him saying, I don't want to feel like this. I mean, you have no idea what this does to the confidence of an athlete to go out and be put in a situation where they just, there's such a thing as baptism by fire, but at the same time, there has to be some control over this sort of thing so the guy doesn't get a punishment inflicted on him from start to finish. You know, at the end, in the end, Nagy's going to be gone, but that front office, who hasn't done the team any favors with what they've brought in. I mean, the graphic on the quarterback position. We know Jim McMahon. We know that, okay? And Cutler, Jay Cutler, you know, who wasn't exactly the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Rex Grossman.
You look at I mean, it's been
He
decades.
played in the Super Bowl.
5 decades, like 5 decades.
I don't think there are any other teams. I think this is the perfect combination of Bears and Browns. I don't think any other team has a longer quarterback shirt than you've seen. I know you've seen the picture of the person who just scribbles out the Browns quarterback name and then they put the next name taped onto it. I don't think there's another franchise besides the Bears and the Browns that really have that quarterback sheet.
The years after I can't think of his name now. The one that played for Lombardi.
Bart Starr?
Bart Starr, between Bart Starr and Don Majkowski, it was a wasteland of quarterbacks.
Yeah,
you're lucky you don't remember the Lynn Dickey or weren't around for the Lynn Dickey years.
I wish I was alive when the Packers had a bad quarterback.
Yeah, man.
Here's another one for you.
30
How
years.
would you feel if you were Jared Goff? All right. I mean, it's like you want to talk about penis envy. I mean, here you have a situation where Matthew Stafford steps in to the Rams and just throws a beat down yesterday, and he looks great in this vitalized system with the Rams. He's getting a chance to do what he can do, and he was fighting for 500, if that, with the Lions year after year after year, and was hurt excessively and couldn't get out of Detroit. And you can't tell me that, I mean, some quarterbacks just don't have it, but there are other guys. I mean, and nobody's going to say that Matthew Stafford is necessarily the next coming of whatever, but he's 31 years old now, and it's taken him that long to land with a team that was serious about having some kind of a scheme that would accentuate his strengths. And, you know, all the people who talk about Baker Mayfield, who say, he can't do this and he can't do that, you know, every quarterback can be put into a situation where they cannot do. I mean, we talked about Tampa Bay, you know, and we talked about Steve Young a couple months ago, and how in Tampa Bay, he was running for his life. And then he got to the 49ers. He just became a Super Bowl champion. You can actually find schemes that work. You know, the West Coast offense was built for a heady quarterback like Steve Young. That was, you know, what it was there for. And having a running game in with the Rams, along with flashier wide receivers, the front office never did its job in Detroit. And it's not doing and it never did its job in Cleveland either. It finally has started to get functional, and we have better players on the field, and we have a head coach who has a plan. The front office is going to need some shuffling because the people you're drafting are the wrong people.
Well, and the other thing with the Rams is they've actually got 5 pretty good offensive linemen, where on the Lions you might have one in a season. You know, one year it might be the left tackle, or it could be the guard, or it could be the right tackle or the center, but it's never 5 guys are all really good at their job like the Browns have now.
And it's kind of a sad irony because the Lions' best position group is their offensive line now, because they got Sewell and they got Ragnow and Vaitai and Decker. That's their best position group now. But when Stafford was there, yeah, you're right. They were there and then they were not healthy, or they just didn't produce like they signed people to do. So,
and I'm looking at the Bears and I'm saying, you got no offensive line, you have no game-breaking wide receivers, you don't have a quarterback.
We don't use our game-breaking wide receivers. They just
Allen Robinson's a superstar.
Allen. We have 4 guys who run sub 4.35 speed, and we've called no downfield throws. Now I get that the offensive line is so bad that they can't keep them upright, but it's not like they haven't invested in the position. They don't know how to use the players that are on the field. It's embarrassing.
Montgomery's nothing special as a running back.
I think Montgomery is very special at breaking tackles. He doesn't have breakaway speed like, say, Kareem Hunt does or Nick Chubb does. You're right about that. But Montgomery's...
but with the offensive line he has, he's not going to be able to build up any speed anyway.
I should also let our new friend know I'm a Vikings fan from Minnesota, so it's kind of...
Oh, we're not going to get along.
We're not going to get along at all. We have the rivalry with the Vikings.
Yeah. But, it's funny because when you have a bad front office, what happens is at draft time, you're trying to get it back all at once, and you can't because you made so many mistakes behind you that there aren't going to be enough quality players on the board for you to, you got to figure out what you got to fix first. And if I have a young rookie quarterback that I've, drafted high, I'm going to go offensive line, man. And I don't care if the fans boo when they make the selections. You got to have a front line that protects your quarterback. You just have, and if you have fast wide receivers, then it's going to help you in that part of your game too.
Well, Ryan Pace, as much as I don't like him, he traded up for Tevin Jenkins at offensive tackle, but he traded up for a guy that has a chronic back issue. And in the NFL, having a chronic back issue is like one of the worst possible things to have, especially for an offensive lineman where you have to bend. So I understand Ryan Pace. Yeah, let's go up and let's draft a tackle. But he drafted, I would say, the wrong one. There were like 3 other tackles available.
Your linebacking core is good. I mean, you got a solid group of linebackers. So you should be and you were in this game a good defense against the run, seemingly until Kareem Hunt came into the game, and you could see that. I think what we've seen in the past with the Browns is that there comes a point where the team stops believing and they realize that the offense is a walking 3-and-out machine.
Yeah. And
the defense it isn't just that they're tired, it's that mentally they're defeated because it's like, if we get them off the field, we're going to be back on the field in about a minute and a half at the rate this is going.
And that's the thing. The Browns had like 35 minutes of time of possession or something. It was over 40 minutes of time of possession.
Like over 80% of the game, the Browns had the ball or something crazy.
You can't. We've seen that play out in Cleveland, where our defense is just they try to hold up the best that they can, but by the time late in the third quarter, fourth quarter rolls around, they give up the ghost.
Yep.
Now they
got nothing left.
In our division, we've been having the ongoing conversation. First of all, the AFC, who are the best teams in the AFC. And every week you're just going to keep changing your mind, but nobody's unbeatable. We've seen that, and I didn't know when I did the post-game show yesterday that the Ravens were handed that game by the officials because it was a clear delay of game before that last incomplete pass that stopped the clock at 3 seconds. They didn't get the playoff. They should have been penalized 5 yards, which would have taken them out of field goal range completely.
It would have been because it was a delay of game, it would have been a 10-second runoff, and there was only 6 seconds left in the game.
That's right. You're right. Yeah. I mean, just a ridiculous scenario. And it wasn't just a little split hair off. That ball was not moving in the snap as they implied that it was. And the league does what the league does, which leaves me, Tony wanted to hear my comments that I've tweeted about Josh Gordon and his, 47th reinstatement into the league. And he's going to play for Kansas City, and they put him on the practice squad. Now, my belief is, and I know we live in this world of great freedoms, but you can abuse your freedom. You could do things like breaking the law, and that doesn't allow you to walk on the street freely. You have to go behind bars. Josh Gordon has received more chances than any human being in the NFL's history, and he squanders every single one of them. And this cannot and should not be a marquee value PR move by the league to get him into Kansas City so that Kansas City will have another weapon at their disposal, assuming that he can play at all or he doesn't totally get high on the day before the game's played, which he's done every other time they've reinstated him.
Don't eat the brownies, Andy Reid.
The notion that I have is that if the league reinstates him, the league should position him where he goes. He has given up, in my opinion, the freedom to be able to negotiate with every team in the league. Why should Josh Gordon be rewarded to play for a winning organization when there are guys like Joe Thomas who played for losing organizations for so long? Why would they allow that to happen? And the reason is they want Kansas City into that Super Bowl because Pat Mahomes is a big draw, and they'll make that big offense a little bigger if Josh Gordon hits the field and actually plays. But I have a problem with it because I think up to a certain point, you give up your right of freedom. If you're going to reinstate him, send him off to a team that needs a wide receiver. Let's have little checks and balances here in the NFL. I'm getting sick and tired of seeing teams like the Detroit Lions get the short end of the stick on a call like they did. They played their ass off against the Ravens. And yes, it was stupid giving up that 38-yard pass on 4th down. It was inconceivable why they would drop. They would only rush 3 and they would drop everybody and leave such a huge cushion in the middle of the field like that. Makes no sense to me. But they still would have legitimately won the game. And being a lousy team for decades in Cleveland, we watched calls go against our team that would not go against any other team. And we endured this. And I know the Lions are a whipping boy right now. I know that. And the league is a preferential league. And they treat some organizations, some organizations better than they treat others. And it's not right, Tony.
Right. And, I certainly agree with that. I was taking it more of his point as you think that the team should be forced to sign a player. And that's kind of like, wait a minute.
I don't think anybody. I don't think he should be playing in the NFL. I think.
I absolutely agree. He should be completely banned from the sport. But I mean,
make him pump gas for a living. Do whatever. Work at a Taco Bell because this is a fantasy he's living. And he's still a football player.
They still do drug testing too.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the odds of him making a substantial contribution are very limited because his past is so checkered and he doesn't. He has never conquered his primary issue.
His one saving grace might be, working as a taxi driver in a Jamaican neighborhood.
Yeah, I've got no idea why he keeps getting reinstated. But here's another one that really got my attention in our division. The Cincinnati Bengals are 2-1, and that's good news for people in Cincinnati because it's been really. I mean, you want to talk about an inept owner? Mike Brown is right there at the top of the list, and he's
the Cincinnati version of Mike McCaskey.
Yeah, and that Chase is actually catching balls and using his speed and not dropping passes like he was in the preseason, and they're winning football games. And they actually won when Burrow only threw 18 times. It's a glorious thing for Cincinnati. And you'd think that they would take their gift with that sense of gratitude, the same gratitude that we grant John Hinckley, for example. But no, Tyler Boyd can't keep his dang mouth shut. He says the Steelers gave up late in the game. Now, you're not in a position, young man, to say that about any organization. And I'm not going to stand up for the Steelers because God only knows that would just be the wrong thing to do. But why can't you just be silent assassins? Why can't you go in, do a number on Pittsburgh and come out with your nose clean and just say, well, we played our good game and we're thrilled to have won on the road. Instead of just rubbing it in and stepping on somebody and kicking them when they're down. because you know the next time the Steelers play the Bengals, and there will be next time, of course, that there will be bulletin board material galore, and he's going to be targeted in a big bad way.
Now,
And
the Steelers didn't have some key players like TJ Watt, right?
that's right.
Yeah, Watt didn't play.
So you don't think TJ Watt's going to fucking line up Joe Burrow the next time?
Yeah, I'm first thing, as soon as you said that, all I could think of was when it was Juju Smith-Schuster before the wild card last year said the Browns is the Browns, right? And then the Browns proceeded to put 28 straight points on him in like the first quarter. And so you never want to give your opponents ammunition like that. Like when Fields said, out of context, by the way, but when he said the game felt kind of slow to me, that's all my Twitter is Packers, Vikings, and Lions fans posting the quote of Justin Fields saying the game felt kind of slow to me. But you
got to watch what you say, even if it's taken out of context. But when something like this is directly in context, and the Browns is the Browns, and you say that, and you're in the midst of a multi-game losing streak, like the Steelers were last year when he said that, it's bad timing. An article from the Guardian.com is saying the decline and fall of Ben Roethlisberger is finally upon us. I mean, they're writing obits right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I never count anyone out of anything, although I will say this, that it was obvious last year that Roethlisberger had aged tremendously. And it wasn't just one thing. It's that his arm was messed up. He wasn't throwing the ball with the same velocity. And the long ball down the field, especially his trademark where he would scramble out of the pocket and throw across his body, was just a floater, just a duck now, and got picked off. He's not the same guy. He's old, he's been banged up, and now he's got that pec issue, and he's taking more and more punishment. He's being asked to throw 38 times in a game. It's crazy. And, so they've lost. They're 1-2. The Ravens, by the grace of the NFL, is 2-1. We're 2-1, and it seems like an eon ago that the Bears actually won, and the Bears beat who? Philip?
When? In 2018?
This year.
Oh, this year. Oh yeah, the Bengals. Yeah.
The Bengals. I mean, so what is Tyler Boyd talking about? What is he talking about?
He was silent against the Bears. I don't know. We didn't give up.
The Bengals let that howdy-doody old quarterback of theirs basically beat them. That's not a good thing. Even though he's your old howdy-doody quarterback now, I'm sorry, I don't mean to insult, but the bottom line is that Andy Dalton probably was primed for that game because he had been, And the shame of it is that he thought he was going to a better place. And that's the sad part that it is for a lot of these players, that, your career can take a turn for the better or worse, depending on where you end up. And you can get be looked upon as a loser because you're playing for an organization that isn't wrapped up too tight. So, again, a lot of 2-1 teams in our division, and a lot of 2-1 teams around the league. And, nobody can sit there and say to me, now the Seahawks are 1-2. And I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy that Russell Wilson is in that position. There are teams who are, you got the Raiders who just keep marching on. And look at the Titans. Remember the Titans. I mean, and the Titans are likely to be 5-0 because they're playing 2 weak teams in the next 2 weeks. So
the Titans lost week 1.
I'm sorry.
They'd be 4-1. Titans lost. They
lost to Arizona.
Oh, that's right. Oh, well,
38-7. They lost to Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
But you're looking at the race shaping up. There's going to be a lot of teams in the AFC, and
Denver's, with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback.
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater's winning in down there. I mean,
No.
I will wait until Denver plays a team that has a single win before I put that much of a excitement on the Broncos yet. Their opponents are 0-9 combined. So,
But hey, man, you got to beat the teams that you play.
Yeah, and at least they're beating them convincingly. Like they're not making the games close. So I'll give them credit for that. But the Bears were 5-1.
Some of those teams they would find a way to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking through some of the comments. And this will change constantly. The Bills and the Raiders are the top teams in the AFC. But to be honest with you, the Bills are back on the uptick after a very bad start. And I believe that the Browns and the Ravens can beat either of those two teams given the right set of circumstances on the right day. But I wouldn't say that there's any team that on any given day could beat everybody else. Right now, it's just very, very even across the board. We always talk about numbers in games because, the snap counts, for example, it was very interesting because it was so heavily offensively oriented because of the time of possession. The Browns had 81 offensive snaps and only 45 defensive snaps. I commented on yesterday's show, it was the first time I've ever seen Myles Garrett not totally out of breath.
I've never seen a team go 3-0 more in my life. Every drive the Bears were 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. It's like,
and the only thing we walked away with was, unfortunately, Greg Newsome with a calf pull. But games like this, if you want to know how soft the opponent is, we didn't walk away with injuries in this game. I mean, you realize that Jedrick Wills, with his bad ankle, played 70 out of 81 offensive snaps.
I mean, he did get beat. He did get beat pretty often, though.
Yeah, he was hurting.
I give him props because I didn't know if he was going to play when I was making my prediction for the game, but I give him props for playing. But Robert Quinn kind of had a career revival. I don't know career revival, but he was terrible last year. He had more sacks in this game than he did all of last year. So
sure looked good, and again, but Wills looked like he couldn't get. It looked like the outside rush was just getting by him.
And he was the one that had the free release right off the line of scrimmage on the first 4th and 5 and coming on the left side of Baker Mayfield. And if he had hit Mayfield the way that Koromoa hit Mills, that probably would have destroyed the shoulder of Baker Mayfield.
And, Odell Beckham played 52 snaps in the game,
It was more than I thought he was going to play.
Yeah. I am glad for the game that OBJ is back.
I think we still tried to throw to him too much. I think that we were not spreading the ball around as well as we have in previous weeks. And that's going to become a story again, I have a feeling, in Cleveland. The one sideline catch he made where he kept both feet in bounds, and both he and Peoples-Jones made great adjustments on routes, the back shoulder throws.
Well, he only had 9 targets, though.
Yeah.
Targets are one thing, but look at the play calls. Maybe he just wasn't open and Baker didn't throw him the ball.
That's 1/5 of his times he was on the field. He got a target, though.
And what's amazing? Njoku played 50 snaps, Austin Hooper 49, Harrison Bryant 33. Even Jordan Franks, the 4th tight end, got into the game and had 9 snaps. Njoku didn't catch a ball. Didn't even have a ball thrown his way as far as I can remember.
But he did get that flip out of bounds on the one of the last plays of the game.
Yeah, and then
he was part of knocking out the fucking sideline official.
Yeah. No, he was. That was should have been a personal foul against whoever it was. He was 2-3 yards out of bounds when the guy was trying to take him down, and it was actually the Bears player who rolled underneath the chain gang guy. That's a pointless injury that should never have happened. Hooper caught the touchdown pass. Harrison Bryant, the most conspicuous play, was wide open, and Baker Mayfield missed him. And it was the second time. He totally missed Demetric Felton in the first possession of the game, and then Harrison Bryant on totally blown coverage and missed both guys by throwing 4 or 5 yards beyond them. Very non Baker Mayfield-esque. But he's not going to continue completing 82% of his passes like he did the first 2 weeks. Kareem Hunt was on the field for 33 snaps. And he was a difference maker. I mean, my goodness. A violent running style, north-south, that Chubb is more pick his shots and then bam, he gets you. You know, he's waiting to see that little hole. You know, there's no waiting with Hunt. Kareem Hunt, I mean, he'll hit whatever there is and jump up in the air and drag people along. He's not going to get those 60-yard touchdown runs that Nick Chubb gets, but boy, he's a battering ram. And you could just see how the running game slowly took over the course of the game. And everybody was fresh on the Browns. You see, we were able to rotate people in and out at will because we just had control of possession. And, you know.
God, imagine calling different formations to help out your struggling offensive line. That sounds like a crazy novel idea.
Yeah, it's and again, Demetric Felton, he was only on the field for 11 offensive snaps. Isn't that amazing? But he still had a presence in the game. He fielded 7 punts and amassed 103 yards, good for an average of 14.7 yards per return. We haven't seen that in Cleveland in some time. He's not going to be a guy who's going to break them free and break them, 70-yard punt returns. But he's got good hands, and if he can get us double-digit punt returns, who's your punter, by the way? That guy was kicking the hell out of the ball.
That's Mega Punt, Pat O'Donnell, best player on our offense. So.
Whoa.
Mega what?
Mega Punt.
Oh, okay.
I did not.
I thought you said something else.
No.
My hearing sucks. I'm sorry.
But yeah, he's
Tony. You don't know. No, he's 17, Tony. Remember when you were 17 and you were on the show, Tony?
Yes.
Did I ever say such a thing to you?
Multiple times you asked.
Okay, well then forget about that. I'm older and I'm wiser. Yeah. No, I mean,
especially about Viking players, probably.
How far was he kicking those punts? It looked like they were going like 65 yards.
Yeah, he was right in there. I think 3 of them were 61.
But he was out kicking his coverage. And that allowed Demetric
literally
to get yardage. But, but again, only 11 snaps offensively, but he found another way to impact the game. And I think that is important.
I know I'm not a big Browns watcher. I watch them whenever I watch the Chiefs game. I watch this one, of course. So I've seen 2 out of 3. 2 guys that I really noticed were Felton. Whenever he was in the game, he sucked Roquan Smith away from the rest of the field, which I think was really good. He should have beaten Roquan Smith for like a 50-yard touchdown if Baker didn't overthrow him.
That's right.
And then Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah looked like Ray Lewis out there. He was everywhere. He was blitzing the quarterback. He was covering. I mean, everyone was covering because we couldn't run downfield. But he looked very good. He was all over the field. So that
you don't know how long we've waited for a player like that who's like a strong safety guy who and when he hits you, you stay stuck,
Yeah.
He's a little bit like our Troy Polamalu.
Yeah, I mean, we've needed a guy like this, and to see him flying around the field, and he's so young and inexperienced, there could be, if he's serious about his trade, he could become a serious player for this organization, really.
And he was a late second-round pick? What a steal. That was a great draft for the Browns.
And I don't know what it was that made him drop. Sometimes I wish Derek were in here. Derek's one other guy on our panel off and on. Okay, he's a big college football fan. What it was at Notre Dame, why Koromoa dropped in the eyes. Do you know
Did he
that?
have he had a medical thing, wasn't
He did. He had medical. I don't remember exactly what it was. But the other reason that I heard from one of my friends who is a Notre Dame fan is a lot of people didn't like kind of his position. Like he's kind of positionless. And I think you kind of get the feeling if you've watched him through the first, especially this last game, he played like every position on defense. A lot of players like that. Deion Buchanan, who came out of Alabama, never got going. Isaiah Simmons only just started getting
How
started.
about Jabril Peppers? We had a
Jabril
shot
Peppers.
at him. Yeah.
I don't know how much Jabril Peppers is getting going. But
No, but he had no position. When he came to Cleveland, they didn't know what to do with him.
So
they played him. Yeah,
they don't want to. A lot of people were saying that JOK should have gone top 20. Teams probably didn't know what to do with him if they drafted him, and they like Washington, for example, drafted Jamin Davis, who's played really well, but Jamin Davis fits a specific like niche of the defense where JOK can kind of do everything. So
and what I'm seeing here is that there was the heart condition concerns. I remember reading about that, and I don't know how somebody gets that wrong.
I mean, that's the reason. That's the reason Denver didn't draft Fields, is because he had one epilepsy. I think Denver said, "Oh, we don't want to draft him if he's going to have an epileptic problem," but he hasn't had one for a long time. So, heart condition. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big to do, and in this instance, yes, the Browns front office saw him on the board, and talking about a position of need for this organization, it's and I would tell you this, Demetric Felton is much better than Duke Johnson, and the only thing I'm afraid of with Demetric, don't fall in love with that spin move too much. You can run right into somebody when you do a full 360 spin, and
that's ball Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah, and the ball can come loose real easily when you're in the middle of a move like that. But he's shifty, but he's not of unsound body. And Duke Johnson, from the beginning with Cleveland, was always hurt, and they were trying to use him in the wrong way. Duke was running between the tackles too much for a bad Browns team. And by the time they figured out that, they got to use him extensively, really, in the passing game, he was already beat up. Felton is being used in the right way because we have a coach who understands how to use the pieces that he's got. It's the game yesterday. I mean, my God. If you would have been talking 2 weeks ago about the Green Bay Packers, it was like it was over.
Oh, the sky was falling.
Yeah.
They were like my friends, because I still have most of my friends who, when I lived up in Rockford, a lot of them were Packers fans because they're bandwagons.
Yeah.
But they're like, does Rodgers even want to? Did he come back just to sabotage the team? But now they're looking exactly like how they were last year for the most part. But and honestly, I think the 49ers second half impressed me a lot more than the Packers, even though they got away with some penalties, especially late hitting Devontae Adams and basically knocking him out for a minute. And they got away with some stuff, but the 49ers offense in that second half was very impressive.
Tony, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
And this is not to rub salt in the wound, because we already had the same salt in a different wound. Chase McLaughlin, what was the story why Minnesota just walked on him? Is there something we're not seeing at this point?
It was just journeyman kicker, like in the preseason, he would miss some and make some and miss some and make some. And, it's like, well, he's not really reliable. Let's just move him on. It seems he's found his niche in Cleveland.
Well, for now, I mean, you're only as good as the last ball you kicked. You know how that goes, and it can get into a player's head. As you've seen with Joseph, it gets into a player's head.
But I mean, yeah. But Chase McLaughlin, the Jets passed on him too. So there's something there that's
Yeah, but I mean, you know what's amazing is you could go for it on 4th and short and screw it up both times, and then come back the third time and say, will a shoe going for the fourth down this time, and try to kick a 57-yarder, and it goes through the goalpost. I don't think that we've had a kicker who could do that. I mean, the leg strength on him is very good. Accuracy is yet to be seen. I think for his career, maybe somebody could look this up. His career NFL regular season kicking record. I want to say that
it was weird to me that there's got to be something there that Stefanski doesn't trust him, because the fact that you're going for back-to-back 4th down attempts deep in the red zone was a little confusing to me.
Well, he goes for the jugular. This is his style. He believes in his guys and his offensive guys and his running game and his accurate short passing game with Baker. And, those plays were poorly executed. Very unusual, for a Stefanski team. I mean, very, very unusual. I'm looking up Chase McLaughlin right now.
Career, he's 81.1% done.
I mean, what it looks like to me,
97.6 on extra points.
It looks like he sucks the big moose for the LA Chargers.
He's been on 6 teams.
Yeah.
3
and
7 teams technically if you count the Vikings preseason.
Yeah, I mean, with 3 teams in 2019, he averaged 78.3, which isn't solid. I think anything north of 80. But I mean, when you're in practice squads being let go and it's hard to get into a groove. And I talk about Phil Dawson all the time. It wasn't like the Browns found him and drafted him. They found him in a scrap heap somewhere. And sometimes these guys do come around. But in 2020, he played with 2 teams, but he didn't kick very much. He was in three games with Jacksonville, and Jacksonville never got the ball far enough down the field to try very much. And his longest field goal up to that point was 52 yards. Now it's 57 yards. And I give him a game ball. I give him a game ball for what he did, because the defense was so dominant against whatever the Bears were trying to do, that those 3-pointers added up. And every time you kicked a field goal, it was just one more heap of desperation thrown on the Bears. And usually the Browns are such an efficient red zone machine. It was nice to see that the field goal kicker could step up and knock down some important field goals. And
without pulling a hamstring.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. They said that he had a hamstring injury, but the ball seems to be coming off his foot really well. So, who knows? Well, I'm going to give the young Squire Phillip his final words on the program. See how fast an hour goes by, Phillip?
Yeah, that was fast. I very much appreciate you inviting me on here. This was so much fun. I would love to come back in whenever you want me. It was nice to meet both you, Brian and Tony. I appreciate you guys also being on here.
Welcome.
Yeah, nice to meet somebody from the old neighborhood.
Yeah. And if you enjoyed anything I said, I believe, hopefully, I don't know how you can link. This is live streamed on YouTube, right?
What we're doing, yes, we're live streaming on YouTube, also onto Twitter, onto my timeline in Twitter, also onto Facebook Live. That's
okay. That's awesome. PR Moves, it's on the screen, on Twitter and YouTube. Most of my content right now is Chicago Bears oriented, but during the off season, if you're a fan of any team, I went over every single division in the league this year, and I went over the entire draft. So if you're an NFL fan in general and you want to just talk some NFL, you can go over to my channel anytime. I would appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on here.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to tell you, because when I was starting out podcasting, and I wasn't young like you, I started all the way back in 2004. I was one of the original people trying this art form, and it was a different world. We're using a product called StreamYard here, which I have found to be an extremely effective tool in getting guests on the air, and also the ability to multicast, to send out streams to multiple destinations. So, and they do have a free version that you can get into, and it's called StreamYard. And you might want to have some fun with that if there's, I guess you're just doing YouTube live, just basically streaming directly from YouTube.
Yes, for the most part.
All right. So yeah, you're welcome anytime, and you have my information. You know how to get a hold of me. Anytime that you're willing to do the program, we'd love to have you, because we can have up to 10 people into this show.
All right.
So and we're always looking for insights, especially when we get into Friday shows where we're talking about, with Tony around, and he wants to talk about the shitty Vikings, and now we have a guy
beat that ass on Sunday, there, big boy. Watch out.
So now we have his matching twin who can talk about the shitty Bears in the same division, but we talk about what's going to happen to the AFC North, and I have no problem in integrating what's going to happen in your Division 2 into the Friday show. So anytime, literally anytime you want to come over, you just let me know you're going to be here, or if you just show up, you know where to find the link now on the show description on YouTube. Just pop in. We'd love to have you.
All right.
And if you have your YouTube up, you can join us in the chat area too. So
and don't let the creeps in the chat room deter you away.
No, I mean, the fact of the matter is you got to have a thick skin like cowhide to make it as a podcaster. And the fact is nobody's going to like every dang thing you say. But hey, these are free airwaves. We'd like to hear a point of view. Everybody, thanks for helping out. As always, Brian and Tony, all the viewers, and Philip, and enjoy the rest of your week. We are going to be back again on Friday to talk all about the next one. And the Vikings, something, I'm not going to say nothing, Tony. Right now, Kirk Cousins is playing really good football.
Looks like a fucking Hall of Famer right now.
Yeah, well, and look, I mean, they're the best 1-2 football team.
I haven't seen that kind of quarterback play since Wade Wilson.
That's exactly right. Yeah, but I'll tell you, at 1-2, and the fact that they were 0-2 going in, but the numbers are being put up by Kirk Cousins. The defense was giving up a lot of points, and that's not an easy place to win inside that building. And it's going to be a rough go. So Tony,
we'll break it down Friday.
yeah, you be here and we'll be talking about it. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back again on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.
Thanks for stopping by.